You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, 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 other than day one.
Donald Trump has successfully moved the Overton window in a way that is as dangerous for the future of democracy in this country as anything else.
This is what Vout and Project 2025 wanted.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I was Tom. I think it's great.
They control the Congress, they control the White House, and they control the courts. And so, of course, they're massively, massively overreaching. And yes, they are getting away with it right now.
This is clearly a man who cannot tolerate criticism of him or what he does, which is exactly what authoritarianism is all about.
The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. They really are the enemy of the people.
What he is saying, rather bluntly, if you stand up to Donald Trump, he will punish you.
Protesters in Philadelphia, state capitals in California, Minnesota, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin, Indiana, and others showed up to oppose Trump, Musk, and Project 2025.
US and President Trump has overseen America's largest military parade in decades as nationwide protests take place against his leadership.
Demonstrations are happening right across the United States today to oppose the Trump administration.
Two visions of America. On a day the country's deepening divide was there for all the world to see.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Jeff Waldorf, and you're watching Logically Left right here, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. And I got a great show for this Thursday afternoon. So, look, I'm going to talk a lot about regular people. I'm going to be talking about workers, farmers, ranchers, people that are on the food stamps, government programs, all that stuff, okay? All these people voted for Trump and are now, well, they're getting the day they voted for. Okay, so that's kind of the theme of today's show is, yeah, you voted for this guy and, well, now your life sucks, okay, as a result. Sad day. But we're going to get into the details here of, who these people are and why they're so mad. What's happening to them as a result of their own vote. Also, by the way, I don't have a prepared story for this, but since you did mention it, bye-bye Nancy Pelosi. Now, here's the thing. So Nancy Pelosi is finally retiring. So she does not plan to run in 2026. She's like, that's it. I'm retired. I'm hanging up my hat. Okay. Maybe I'll break out those Medicare for all things that are stuck in my basement. I don't know, but yeah, I'm done. I'm done with my political career. And so I'm going to give her a lot of credit because unlike a lot of other Democratic politicians these days, or at least as of recently, she has decided not to die in office. Look, she's in her mid 80s. Okay. And so it could be any time now. That's not to say that she is, not to say that I hope she does. Okay, I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying, like, she actually made the good decision of, like, all right, my time's over. Okay, I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna open it up, okay, to other people, to younger people, younger folks, younger representation, and I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my life. And that's all we wanted. That's really all we wanted, right? Us younger people, is to say, hey, if you're 1 billion years old, okay, and you've served for a very, very long time, hey, that's great. I'm glad you had a great career. Glad you made a ton of money. Now's your time, okay? Now's your time. And look, what about Bernie? I am a Bernie bro, okay? Unabashed Bernie bro. And you know what? If he decides to retire, totally in favor of that as well. Okay, because you know what, man deserves to, and even though he would be a big loss in Congress, right? The man deserves to retire and to enjoy life with his grandkids. Okay, I'm just saying, Like, if he wants to, again, it's going to be a loss for the rest of us. But you know what? The progressive movement endures because it is not based on just a couple of people. It's not based on one person. The progressive movement is large. There's a lot of wonderful young progressives out there that are ready to take the mantle or have the mantle thrust upon them. Because usually the ones that have that mantle thrust upon them end up being the best leaders, okay? The ones that never really wanted to take a leading role, if suddenly they find themselves in that, odds are they're going to be one of the better leaders, okay? And look, Bernie was that guy. Nobody expected him to run for president. Nobody, nobody was talking about that. He wasn't talking about that before. And then, during the first, 2016, right, around there, or the primary, right, he saw nobody was challenging Hillary Clinton, and he's like, oh my God, she's going to lose to Donald Trump. Or the Republican. I need to do something about it. And that's what happens. And so that's how he became the leader of the progressive movement. But anyway, I know, relitigating the past. But anyway, I actually think that it's a great thing, and I give her a lot of credit here, and I hope she has a wonderful retirement, and that California elects an awesome progressive to take her place. All right, so there you go. Yes, Jedi Protector, it is a FAFO day. When is it not? When is it not? Because there is a lot of finding out that's happening. All right, but anyway, before I dive into that, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Help me get that reach. Leave a comment. In fact, I already got a couple of super chats, which is awesome. So let's see. VMan29397 with a couple of very kind super chats says, hey, since Zoran Mamdani is today attending a conference of New York Latino leaders in Puerto Rico, should he take some time to meet with Democratic Socialists of the Puerto Rican Independence Party? Why not? I don't see why not. See the argument if he's going to support Puerto Rican independence or not. So, I mean, I'd hear him out. Now, he also said it would be sending a message to the billionaires who screw over both Puerto Rico and New York City that the Caribbean playground is next on our target. There you go. All right. So, with that, thank you, big man. Appreciate that. And the insights from Puerto Rico. Again, I do really appreciate that. Let's see. Apparently, former Halo composer Marty O'Donnell is going to try to flip a district in Arizona for the Republicans. He tried to run in the past, did horribly, and I can't wait to see him lose again. Yeah, I read about that. It sucks that the person who, again, did the Halo soundtrack turned out to be such a terrible person. It reminds me a lot of learning of when I learned that Dwight Schultz, who played Barkley on Next Generation Star Trek, okay, is a massive transphobe and right-winger. It hurts. It sucks. The feelings. Hate it. I hate it. People, like, you get people that... Also, there was and I forget what his name was, but he was another Star Trek related thing. Designed a lot of the iconic starships, I believe. Like, I think he designed the Excelsior class, which I like personally. I don't know, a lot of people don't. Okay, ask Scotty how he felt about the Excelsior class, the bucket of boats. Yeah, he didn't like it, but guy who designed it, though, also massive piece of shit in his personal life. Once again, being super transphobic. I hate it. But anyway, so look, I hope he loses as well. Okay, let's just say that. And I liked, I liked playing Halo and all that. Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. I love Harry Potter, but Screw J.K. Rowling. Yeah, yeah. How you make the Halo games and end up acting like the Covenant is beyond me. I don't know. I just don't know anymore. You know? It sucks. It sucks. All right. Anyway, thank you, Mark Medica, by the way. 5945 for the very kind super thanks, I believe. I'm not sure. Super chat, super thanks. It doesn't have a message on there. But you know what? Thank you anyway. Appreciate that. Separate the art from the artist can be difficult to do, but I attempt to do so, but it can be very difficult. Not Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry, look, I absolutely love what he created and you know, that he tried to be, you know, like, no, that he was progressive at the time, especially back in the 60s, you know, with all the wonderful stuff that he did with that series. Yeah. And so, yeah, I do appreciate what he did. I also know that he was kind of like a horn dog. So, I mean, just read about what he tried to do with the Ferengi, with the giant cod pieces and everything. I mean, a guy was a little bit of a freak, but you know what? I love his work. So, anyway, okay, but anyway, look, I'm gonna keep going off on pop culture stuff, and I don't want to do the entire show of just that. Okay, I do have these important stories that I want to get to. So let's start out with Arkansas. Things are not going well there. Just like pretty much everywhere. Okay. Farmers in Arkansas are facing some financial difficulties as a result of President Donald Trump's terrible trade policies. Okay. The irony, of course, is that many of them had voted for Trump. Not surprising. People like Kenny Qualls, a farmer from Lake City, okay, who recently told a local news outlet that, quote, right now, there is no optimism. There's no way to look at a profit. Wow. And added, a lot of people are going to be getting out. You know, we always look for the next year, but the next year is not promising anything better. It's taken away hope for a lot of people. That's right. So a lot of farmers, Arkansas, absolutely no hope as a result of Trump's his trade wars. So, and by the way, Kenny's not alone. U.S. farm debt is now expected to reach $561.8 billion by the end of this year, which is a 3.7% increase from the previous year. So I'm not saying farmers were doing amazing before, but they are doing much worse now. In Arkansas alone, in this, just the first 3 months of the year, you had 15 farm Chapter 12 bankruptcies. Okay, that is double the number of bankruptcies in the previous year. But we had that in just the first quarter. Yikes. That's not good. And especially for a state where agriculture brings in about $16 billion annually. So yeah, it's a $16 billion industry per year, and oof, not doing well. Not doing well, okay? Trump's policies are hitting extremely hard. And farmers say that, look, the reason that we're doing so badly is, well, I mean, we've been hit by extreme weather, driven by climate change, just saying, as well as tariffs that have seen their crops both decimated and without international buyers. In fact, Paul McNally of Southern Bancorp told local K8 News, quote, where we are needing help is some kind of federal assistance, i.e. a handout. So they're begging for handouts, let's be honest, bailouts. We started in 2023 and 2024 being off years. Some farmers had to refinance in 25 for this year to be able to stay in business and right the ship. Except that, well, the ship is not righting at all. The ship is sinking. Okay, we're going full Titanic on this one. All right, it's going right down. First, there were things that they couldn't do anything about that contributed to this. Of course, you had severe flooding that happened back in April of this year. 10 people died, and it also caused about $78 million in crop damage. Not good. Not good. But of course, that by itself, very tragic, very damaging, okay? But you add in then the icing to this shit cake, which is Donald Trump's trade war with China. Of course. Because you see Chinese customers who typically purchase about half of Arkansas's soybean crops decided, well, we're not going to do that anymore if you're going to put a whole bunch of tariffs on us. And that's what happened. So they're not doing business with U.S. farmers anymore. And that, of course, is absolutely devastating to these very same farmers. Chinese import actually account for approximately 1/10 of all U.S. agricultural outputs. Specifically, though, they do a lot of business with the soybean farmers. China, however, has decided we're going to go find new markets. Okay, we're not going to buy from U.S. soybean farmers anymore because of Donald Trump. So we're going to go and get some of our soybeans now from Argentina. That's right, Argentina, who, you know, we just gave, what, a $40 billion bailout to? Great. Yeah, awesome. Now, there's more, though, okay? Farmers are also dealing with increased prices on everything, just like everybody else, okay? Now, their prices come from seed, the increased costs of seed, as well as machinery and farm labor. That's right. You see, Trump has been doing ICE raids across the country, okay? A lot of those ICE raids have hit the agricultural sector pretty damn hard, okay? Because there, again, a lot of labor, a lot of the farm labor is immigrants. Something around 40% of all agricultural workers were undocumented immigrants. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. And so, well, now who's left to pick the crops? Well, why don't Americans do it? Americans ain't clamoring to fill them jobs, okay? And the ones who might do so, they're not going to work for the typically low wages that farms offer. And so, well, that's going to impact the farmers even more because then they're going to be forced to pay more for labor. And they're already going under. So, not good at all. In fact, this year, speaking of labor, there's a shortfall in agriculture that is expected to exceed 400,000 jobs, according to Michael Marsh, president and CEO of the National Council of Agricultural Employers. But again, you can say, well, what? Okay, so if Americans won't do it, and we can't get the immigrants over, and by the way, they also can't get temporary farm workers because the government's shut down, so they're not issuing those temporary H-2A visas, and so, can't do that either. Oh no! Well, you might say, okay, well, why don't we get the robots to do it? Automation, that'll solve it. No, well, no, AI ain't working the fields. It's not going to happen. Okay, we don't have the technology for that. Marsh said, point blank, technology will not fill this need. No kidding. No kidding. Now, the result of all of this, of course, is absolute economic disaster. According to McNally, up to 1/3 of Kansas farmers could face bankruptcy. There's more. CEO of Ag Heritage Farm Credit Services says that multiple years of losses, high input costs, and ongoing global uncertainty means that farmers in Arkansas face a critical year ahead. He said, quote, "This is the worst I've seen since the mid-1980s from a profitability standpoint." Yeah. And look, there was recently a hearing before the House Agriculture, Forestry, and National Resources Subcommittee. And in it, farmers sounded off about how bad things have gotten for them. One farmer, Sidney Robinette, told the group that the stress of managing this downturn is the kind that doesn't go away at the end of the day. Quote, "It gets in bed with you." Ooh, and not in the kinky way either. Not in the good way.
Sexual anarchy.
No, there's none of that going on here, okay? In fact, he said, "Sometimes it's better to be awake than it is to sleep at night, because when I'm awake, I can think of what's going on today. The bad dreams happen at night. The bad dreams are going out of business. The bad dreams are the uncertainty." Lots of bad dreams going on there. But here's the thing about this, okay? A lot of you voted for it. Look, the majority of farmers voted for Trump. Now, I think that they would have known better, should have known better, but apparently didn't. Look, there are farmers, by the way, who didn't vote for Trump. And I think it's important to point out that not all farmers voted for Trump. There's a lot of farmers that knew better, okay? And they were like, no, look at what he did last time to us, okay? Remember, Trump 1.0, he slapped tariffs on China then, too. And had to end up bailing out the farmers because they lost their, contracts. They weren't able to export as much, okay, because of Trump's attempt at doing a trade war the first time. They learned, but the majority of farmers this time didn't, okay? And look, of course, there is a good chance that he's going to bail out the farmers. I mean, he certainly talked about it. That said, it's not going to really help them long term if their customer base disappears. And it certainly looks like it has happened already, okay? All of this means there will be even more farm bankruptcies, which may be the goal. Why do I say that? Why would Trump want to bankrupt the people who voted for him? I mean, why wouldn't he? It's Trump. But I'm going to give you a more substantial reason here, right? Acre Trader. That is the company owned by J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel. Very much invested, at least they are, in this company. And what did they do? They buy up distressed farms, okay? Farms that have gone bankrupt or are going bankrupt. They buy them out. And then they lease them out to farmers. Basically, they're bringing back serfdom. They're bringing back the sharecroppers. And so there you go. And yeah, as more and more farms go bankrupt and more farmers lose their livelihoods, they're also going to not get a bailout, but are going to get bought out, which means consolidation of our food system, which is never a good thing, as well as, well, these farms being rented back to them. So here comes the sharecropping, baby. These farmers, look, they're apparently, and it's ironic, right? Because they voted for this, and they're going to be the first to find out what Trump actually meant by making America great again. So there you go. Trump's like, go for broke. He's good at that. True. Oh, what I meant by was Gene Roddenberry wasn't the guy who designed the Excelsior class. No. He wasn't. And I forget his name. No, I don't believe it's Doug Drexler. I don't believe that it's Michael Okuda. I don't think it's any of those guys. Thinking of Westmore? No, that can't be it either. Anyway, tangent. Let's not. Move on. By the time people wake up and realize what's happening, it'll be too late if it isn't already. I believe it is already too late. We're not mitigating any of the damage. We're going to be having to deal with it for a long time. Unfortunately. Okay. Latino Trump voters in Florida are having some regrets about their effort to put him back in the White House. Just a year after their fateful vote, many Latino Trump voters in Florida are now questioning that decision because of the growing frustration, which has led to regret among people who are most affected by the rise of the cost of living, the cuts to the social programs, like Medicaid, for example, and, of course, the cruel anti-immigrant agenda that is tearing these communities apart. So, first I want to talk about the government shutdown, okay? Which is having an impact on, obviously, everybody except for rich people. But it's hitting this community, the Latino community, especially hard. For example, in Miami-Dade County, where there was a massive shift of the Latino vote from Democrats to Republicans. And that was actually key to Trump's victory in that last election. Now, in that county, around 215,000 households, about 24%, rely on SNAP benefits. That's food stamps, okay? One of the highest rates in the country, by the way. Now, one of the people that are on it is Alexis Maria. She's a 35-year-old single mother born in West Palm Beach. She works as a doctor's assistant. That's right, she is a doctor's assistant, but cannot afford food. That's a problem in this country, okay? Where you have the cost of living that is so high that you can still work a job, yet you cannot afford to feed your family. That's a problem. Now, she said that she voted for Donald Trump because she thought, hey, he'd be a better leader. Quote, the last time Trump was president, I made more money than ever in my career. Prices were low. Gas was cheap. I remember going on vacation. Interest rates were low. And now everything is out of control. I can't even afford the air we breathe. Now I see that I made the wrong decision. Yes. You want to know why things were better back then? Well, we were kind of still riding off of Barack Obama's economy, for one. Yes, people tend to try to forget that whole thing. Obama! We were riding on that economy, which was better, okay? And yes, it was still much better for rich people because we have an economy that is weighted towards serving the needs of rich people, something that I had been pointing out for a very, very long time, that people get mad at me for doing so. Sad day for you. My job is to point at reality, okay? Yes, under both Democrats and Republicans, rich get richer and poor people, well, we're still poor, okay? But that said, there were some things to help poor people survive, like the SNAP program, which Republicans continue to try to gut, as well as Medicaid, which Republicans have again gutted. Now, anyway, yes, while we were riding off Obama's economy back then, we also had cheaper gas during the pandemic. Now, why? Well, nobody was driving. Obviously, people were not driving to work. They weren't going different places, and that, of course, killed demand. Now, the other reason is allowing people to work from home during the pandemic, the rise of, work from home, be able to telework, all that stuff. That also lowered the demand for gas, which caused the demand to go down, prices to go down. All right. But Trump, one of the first things he did was say, get your ass back in the office. And there you go. Yes, all these companies wanted people to come back into the office because they could justify, spending money on office space and then micromanaging their employees because they really like doing so. Okay. And so what happened to the demand for gas? The demand for oil went back up. And of course, as a result of that, oil companies, their profits boomed, as well as real estate companies. So there you go. But anyway, back to Alexis, okay? Alexis has been receiving food stamps since her first kid was born. So she has 2 kids, ages 12 and 6. So last 12 years, okay? Now, she said, quote, "The government is the reason we've been able to eat most of the month. In the other half, I'm counting each cent to survive with food prices and rent." That's right. Now, in order to survive in this government shutdown, which has made it, so that November benefits haven't gone out yet, and most likely they will go out piecemeal and, late. Not good. Not good. Now, in order to survive, she says she's been going to the food banks. She's been going to different aid organizations. She's even had to miss days of work to go pick up food. In fact, she says, "Now I need to go 3 times a week to feed my family. And the lines every week have been longer. This sums up why I'm angry with the president. His decisions are now adversely affecting the lower and middle class. They only benefit the rich." And there it is. Let me just say that is not a mistake. This is working as intended, folks. His policies are only meant to help rich people. Why do you think that the first thing that they did was to cut taxes, to ram a giant tax cut for the rich bill through Congress? Okay, and I know he did a bunch of executive orders. Again, a lot of those executive orders help giant corporations, like oil companies and stuff. So there you are. Look, at the end of the day, I think it's pretty self-explanatory here what he cares about or who he cares about. And it's not you, all right? He doesn't care about you. He just needed your vote. That's it. There's more. Michael Liris, a 44-year-old American, lives in Volusia County near Orlando, also voted for Trump. In fact, all 3 times. But says, "Oh boy, I regret my last vote enormously." No kidding. Now, he specifically does not like the immigration raids. He said, "It was necessary to make changes," explaining his vote, "but not in this way. Sacrificing our civil rights and liberties that are enshrined in our Constitution? He is turning this place into a police state, and he's acting like an authoritarian. I didn't vote for any of this." Now, you did, though. I mean, let's be honest. You did. What did you think mass deportation was going to look like? Honestly. Like, well, I didn't think it was going to be this. Yes, but that's because you didn't think. You didn't think about what this was going to look like. You just heard a slogan. And you're like, it's going to be great. You got caught up in the moment, sir. And now, well, you made a really bad decision that is hurting a lot of people and will continue to hurt a lot of people. Look, there were people like Trump supporter Cuban PETA who said that the Trump administration's immigration policies are basically, quote, Republican political manipulation. If you say you're going to deport all criminals, even migrants like me, the voters are happy with that. That is why the Latino vote was oriented towards Trump. People agreed with what the Republicans were saying in the campaign, which was, I'm going to get rid of all criminals. But what Trump is doing is something else, and it is very cruel and very bad, and they are going to pay dearly. Well, I mean, if these most recent elections tell you anything, then yes, they are paying at the ballot box. Republicans are. But here's the thing, right? They lied a lot. They lied a lot about immigrants. They lied about crime. Crime is actually at a much lower level than it has been in the past few years. And so, no, the cities are not filled with criminals. Undocumented immigrants are not criminals. They actually do less crime than native-born Americans. And so all that stuff that he said during the campaign, the vast majority of it was just untrue. Absolutely untrue. And we warned you about that. We told you that it wasn't true. We had the receipts. You know, we talked about the facts. And we were summarily dismissed, obviously. Okay? And look, you know what? We did warn you that this was the plan. You didn't listen to us, and then they enacted the plan. Period. That's it. That's what happened. Okay? I mean, how did you all miss it when he said things like immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country? If you're an immigrant and you hear that, how can you be like, oh, well, he doesn't mean me? I don't understand. I mean, look, this guy, it's not like he was out there saying a bunch of dog whistles, right? These are not dog whistles. It's not a dog whistle when everyone can freaking hear it, when it's very, very loud. All right? So I don't understand how these people could be like, oh, I didn't think that this was going to happen. I didn't think that. God damn it with those batteries. What keeps that? These rechargeables suck. I think I need some new ones. Anyway, where did my audio go out anyway? Because I was really on something. I was really on a good rant there. But all right, let's see. Okay.
We'll do it live!
All right. Sorry about that. But this keeps happening twice in 1 week. Twice in 1 week. Technical issues. Leftist audio is what it is. Leftist audio. Okay. But look, as I was saying, at the end of the day, okay, at the end of the day, Donald Trump and his policies have made us all poorer while making himself and his friends that much richer. Okay? 10 billionaires have made, just 10 billionaires in the US have seen their wealth grow by around $700 billion. While, again, the rest of us have seen declines in our wealth. And, you know, massively increased food prices, increased prices for energy, increased prices for everything. Not only that, but Trump has also ushered in an authoritarian police state that is more well-funded than, I mean, the militaries of many small countries. And that police state is brutalizing immigrants. And guess what? When it's done with the immigrants, who do you think it's going to come for? The rest of us. Exactly. And you know what? Trump voters, you voted for that. And now we all have to suffer the consequences. Okay. Moving on. Weird because that battery, because there's a battery indicator on my mic, and it showed full. Like this, it had just been charged. So I don't know what the hell. I definitely need new batteries. Ridiculous. Technology. God damn it. Okay.
A teleprompter properly.
All right. Cattle ranchers who supported President Donald Trump are feeling pretty betrayed by the massive amount of beef that he plans to import. According to data, the total value of U.S. beef imports reached about $5.86 billion last year in 2024. That is a 10% increase from the value of the previous year. And in 2025, of course, that is set to increase even more. So basically, we already import a ton of beef, or tons of beef. And now Trump saying, and by the way, beef prices are still extremely high in this country. And now Trump's like, well, that's okay. We're going to import even more beef, and that will somehow lower the price. Now, here's the thing. In the first 5 months of this year, we have already imported about $2.54 billion worth of beef from other countries. And here's just an example of the different countries that we import beef from. We've got Canada, okay? We've got Mexico, Uruguay, Argentina, okay? And we're about to buy even more beef from Argentina. Brazil, at least until we slapped 50% tariffs on them. Nicaragua, Japan, New Zealand, Costa Rica, and there's a few others, right? Look, just 8 of those different countries, okay? 8 of them accounted for about 97% of all beef imported to the United States last year and this year, okay? Now, notice again, I talked about Brazil. We bought a bunch from Brazil. And that is, again, before Trump put 50% tariffs on them because they decided to hold their former president, Jair Bolsonaro, who's a coup plotter, accountable for trying to overthrow the country illegally. Yeah. So, there's that. Now, okay. A lot of beef imports. Why so much? Well, obviously, there's a huge demand. I mean, we love our burgers. Okay, I love my burgers. I love steaks. So yeah, I'm a meat eater. Okay, but that's not the only reason. All right. So yes, demand is high, but also because supply in the United States is not so good. In fact, the U.S. cattle herd has shrunk to roughly 86 million head, the smallest it's been since 1951. Where's the beef? It ain't here. Okay, and why is it so low? Well, persistent drought, climate change. High feed costs, again, climate change related. And of course, the time that it takes to rebuild the herds. Okay? And of course, big surprise, Trump labor shortages, because of the immigration rates. So in order to offset that, Trump says, oh, that's okay. We're going to import a bunch more beef from Argentina. We're going to help out my buddy Javier Milei. Okay? But ranchers are saying, no, what are you doing? That's going to hurt us. That's going to hurt us. In fact, the U.S. Cattlemen's Association wrote a letter addressed to Trump saying this year has seen prices finally reach a level that U.S. cattle producers can justify continuing their operations and making a living wage. And then argued that cheap imports do not equate to lasting consumer savings. Despite millions of pounds of lower cost foreign beef entering our supply chain, retail prices have not fallen accordingly. Instead, imported beef is used to suppress the price paid to U.S. producers, while retail prices remain elevated. Now, are they right about that? Yes. Again, we import about 4.6 billion pounds of beef annually. And the numbers change a little bit from time to time, right? But in fact, on this year alone, we're actually on track to import 5.2 billion pounds of beef. Okay. Now, we also, by the way, export about 3 billion pounds. So make that make sense. But look, while we're importing all this beef, our prices haven't gotten any better. In fact, they continue to rise. Ground beef, for example, is up 13%. Steaks are up by 16% over just last year alone. So he's not only hurting the ranchers, but he's doing so without any benefit whatsoever to the consumer. So there you go. Good job, dumbass. Congratulations.
Stupid.
Now, what are the ranchers trying to want Trump to do then? Well, according to the NCBA CEO, Colin Woodall, he would like Trump to support the domestic cattle industry by making investments in improved facilities, okay, to protect the health of American cattle herds, okay? Because right now in Mexico, I believe that there is a screwworm epidemic. I know that sounds weird, but that is obviously having a big impact on cattle herds there. But, you know, there's that, you know, they want Trump to protect the health of the herds and also to address something else, something that I wasn't entirely aware of. Okay, you learn new things every day. Apparently, there has been a scourge of black vultures attacking cattle. Never heard of that before. And you know what? A lot of people that it's happening to have also never heard of that before. Okay, black vultures are coming in and attacking newborn calves. They didn't used to do much of that, but now they are. For example, in Kentucky, you have a rancher named Alan Bryant who has had to put protective measures up against these black vultures. He said, look, they didn't used to be a problem around here. But now, every time a new calf is born, they're up there, they're circling. Kind of like they're circling the country. Just saying. But do you want to know why this is happening? Climate change! Of course. Of course. Black vultures, they used to mainly live in the southeastern United States and farther south in Latin and South America. However, over the past century, as the planet continues to warm, they have started to stretch northward and west into the desert southwest of the United States. This migration is a result of warmer winters that have been fueled by climate change. That's right. And so you also have, by the way, human expansion into their habitats, which cause all sorts of problems. So there you are. Now, speaking of climate change, right? Donald Trump calls that a hoax. Doesn't believe it's real, okay? And not only that, but he also doesn't know anything at all about farming or ranching. He thinks, oh, I'll just fix this by importing more beef. Oh, okay. I don't make the prices go down. Except no, it doesn't. The man is such a simpleton that he doesn't understand supply and demand, doesn't understand markets, or why we're having this crisis in the first place, which again, fueled a lot by climate change. Okay, a drought. Okay, price of feed. Again, climate change, all climate change related. Okay, and so yes, this is why cattle herds are at the smallest level they've been since 1951. And the whole irony of this, all of this, is Republican policies are the cause of a lot of these problems that are hitting these Republican areas that vote for Republicans. These same policies Trump has doubled down on and does not intend to change. No. So, unfortunately, that is the reality here. That Trump is just Trump and Republicans, their policies are screwing up so much. And who knew ignoring climate change would cause beef prices to spiral up, or I should say to spike up. Well, you know, if you were paying attention and you realize that a lot of the things on our planet are interconnected, and a lot of the stuff that, you know, farmers and ranchers rely on, the conditions, have a lot to do with climate change. But when you double down or triple down on pro-fossil fuel, you know, what is it, drilling, burning oil and you know, fossil fuels for energy and just getting rid of all the solar and the wind power and things like that, you're going to exacerbate those conditions that are already endangering our very fragile food supply. But you try to, you know, explain that to anybody who, you know, is a conservative, who is a Republican, and they're just going to tell you green news scam, fake news, while their herds continue to shrink as a result and their prices continue to rise. I don't know what to do. All I can say is you can't fix stupid. Okay. Moving on. Last story here. Speaking of climate change. Now, one of the big impacts of President Donald Trump's war on the federal government is the funding of green energy projects, which has basically come to a standstill. In Maine, for example, electricians were previously seeing a boom in renewable energy jobs because of all this renewable energy funding. But thanks to Donald Trump now and the Republicans, these same workers have been facing a devastating wave of layoffs. Many of these jobs, of course, that were part of this boom can be traced back to the Inflation Reduction Act, which was the largest federal investment in renewable energy in U.S. history. It was signed by Joe Biden back in August of 2022. And what it did is provide a lot of tax credits, grants, and loans for renewable energy projects in red states, a lot of red states anyway. And, you know, for things like wind and solar, okay? Things that Trump doesn't like, okay? Now, that investment, of course, created a boom in demand for electricians, construction workers, you know, real blue-collar folks, right? They were able to leverage their newfound bargaining power from being able to do all these jobs, right? Being in such high-end demand to be able to, you know, get higher wages and better job opportunities. Awesome, right? That's great. Except, once again, the Republicans didn't think so. Now, let me give you an example here. Scott Cuddy, a longtime electrician at IBEW 1253, told More Perfect Union, this was back in July, so back during the summer, that the rate for a union electrician is currently around $39 an hour. In 2020, we were about $29 to $30 an hour. So, yeah, over the past few years, $5 increase. Pretty good per hour. He said, we've seen an enormous increase in the wages for the people doing the work, and that's because when you have work to do, you get that bargaining power. That said, since Trump got back into office, you've had a massive amount of layoffs, okay? As a result of killing about $24 billion in private clean energy investments. That's right. They have been scrapped or scaled back, which impacted about 20,000 jobs. A lot of jobs. Now, in addition, the U.S. Department of Energy canceled about nearly $8 billion in federal grant awards for hundreds of these green energy projects. Now, again, the irony here is that these cuts are primarily affecting projects in states that voted for Donald Trump. Yeah, that's the irony, right? Again, Biden tried to bring high-paying jobs and economic opportunity using clean energy to red states, only to have those voters in those states that are benefiting from this stab him in the back and vote for Donald Trump, who then is like, I'm going to get rid of all of these things. Great. Wonderful. God. In fact, here is Cuddy speaking to More Perfect Union, saying, quote, they love to have the guys standing behind them in the hard hats when they have a press conference. But when it comes to doing the actual policy that will actually help us, well, we have that policy in place right now. It's called the Inflation Reduction Act. It helped bring more people into the skilled trades, and it helped us get paid more. And this is across the board. Well, again, that is until now. Okay. Again, Trump gets into power, and he says to these green energy jobs,
bing, 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 boom, it's gone.
Gone. And of course, you end up having people like apprentice electrician Braden House, who suffer as a result of it. He spoke to More Perfect Union as well, saying, when I voted for Trump, my big thing was I agreed with his stance on immigration. Yikes. I agreed with his idea of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. I liked his stance on no new wars. And now we're seeing the exact opposite happen. Oh, are you saying that you are having the day you voted for? Yes, I believe you. I believe you are. Now, look, Trump, of course, is a liar. He lies all the time, constantly, even for a politician. The amount of lies that comes out of his mouth is absolutely astounding. All right? Over 30,000 just in his first term alone. And yet, you still believed him when he said he was going to do good things. You still bought it, and now we're all paying the price. Braden happened to have been laid off along with about 65 other apprentice electricians. Okay? And there was about a total of 100 workers just in Maine that were laid off. Again, electricians. And of course, there's about 20,000, or actually around 16,000 nationwide, I believe, if not more. Also that Trump could own the libs. Also because he hates windmills. I mean, you ever hear him talk about windmills? Disastrous. Ridiculous. Now, on that, Braden said this of Trump, quote, he's cutting the things that Joe Biden did that made labor so good. And in the name of, I don't like Joe Biden, so I don't want to stand for anything he stood for. But you shouldn't be cutting something that your predecessor did that was good because he's your predecessor. You should continue to build on the good things he did. If it's creating jobs, if it's boosting the economy, why get rid of that? Well, it's because Trump doesn't care about helping you. He doesn't care that eliminating these projects across the country is, yes, getting rid of jobs, but it's also increasing the cost of energy all across the country. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care that his investments in AI, which he is making a lot of money off of now, are also going to increase the cost of energy by sucking it all up. Voters care. The voters actually care a lot about their energy bills. All right. In fact, just recently in this election on Tuesday, okay, you had a lot of people in a lot of these states decide, we're going to vote on affordability, and that means we're voting for Democrats. Now, let me give you some stats here before I get to that. In New Jersey, which saw a massive Democratic win on Tuesday, residents saw a 22.21% increase in their energy costs between July 2024 and 2025. Virginians, another place where Democrats dominated, saw an average 11.25% increase in their utility bills since last year. And in Georgia, Georgians using the largest utility provider in the state saw their bills increase about $518 in each of the last 2 years. Democrats, they took advantage of that and they won. Mickey Sherrill, for example, in New Jersey, made lowering energy prices central to her campaign, while her opponent sat and attacked clean energy. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger centered energy affordability in her campaign for governor, combining her own plan to tackle rising energy costs with direct attack on Trump's clean energy cuts, while Winsome Earl Sears, her opponent, parroted Trump's attacks on clean energy. And in Georgia, for the first time in about 20 years, 2 Democratic candidates will hold seats on the Public Service Commission. That commission regulates utilities and dictates how to meet energy demand. The 2 Democratic candidates, Peter Hubbard and Alicia Johnson, had challenged the Republican incumbents by aggressively highlighting the rising energy cost crisis under state Republicans and pledged to increase clean energy funding. The lesson here is that, yes, clean energy actually helps lower costs, lower energy prices, because it's more energy. Okay. And the other lesson here, of course, is that you have people like Braden who foolishly voted against their own best interests for a man who didn't give a damn about them. They ended up hurting themselves, hurting the environment, the economy, as well as our standing in the world. And now they realize it. Okay. So, look, we still, unfortunately, have 3 years left of this disastrous regime. And who knows how much more damage? Because look at all the damage that he has done so far in just a year. Got 3 years more left of this. And so, who knows how much damage and how much time we are going to have to spend cleaning up this disastrous mess that Trump and his voters got us into. It is not going to be fun. Okay. But hey, are we great yet? Yay. So there you go. All right. Let's see. Reap what you sow. Absolutely. Absolutely. The company that tore down the West, I believe that's the East Wing, actually, says he hasn't paid them for their agreement yet. Well, yeah, what do you expect? The guy doesn't, he stiffed the Freedom Girls. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you remember that. It was like 2016. And the Freedom Girls came to perform at one of his rallies, and he didn't pay them. You're going to stiff the Freedom Girls? You're going to stiff everybody. Okay. All right. Anyway, that's all I've got for y'all today. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, learned something. Certainly it was very information heavy today, but you know, what we do here. That's what we do here. I don't know Nito Rodas or Bill George. No, neither of those people. Neither of those people. I can't think of it right now. But I know it's not those people. When workers make more money, they spend more money, which makes the return to the billionaires threefold, but they want to own it all, which means you just can't be one. They want that too. Yeah, how much more greed, how much more, like, well, there's no answer to that question because they always want more because their greed is insatiable. And I believe that they're sociopaths. People who are, you know, billionaires. You don't get to be a billionaire without being some sort of sociopath and not caring about people and stepping on them. That's how I feel. All right. So anyway, thank you all. Hopefully you have a great day. Thank you for watching. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Consider becoming a supporter of the show by going to our Patreon, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf. Or becoming a channel member by hitting the join button below, or being a subscriber on the different platforms that we're on, Facebook or Twitch. That's all. Thank you all, everybody, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you back here hopefully tomorrow, same time, same place.